Hello students. Today I am going to teach you about nature of group, its formation and group cohesiveness. First of all, you have to know what is the basic nature of a group. A group refers to two or more individuals who have come together with a common objective. Common objective is the key word for the formation of any group. The members of a group interact and are interdependent on each other with the view of achieving a particular objective. A group is basically an assemblage of people. It can be understood as a collection of individuals who come together and interact with each other so as to achieve the objectives of the organization. So, more than two or many people come to each other and they interact with each other to obtain the common objective of the group. So there are some basic characteristics of group. Some of them are size. To form a group, it must be having at least two members. Practically, the number of groups member ranges from 15 to 20 member. The more the member in the group, the more complex it is to manage. So the group shouldn't be either too small or too large. Goals. Every group has certain goals that are reason for its existence. That is common objectives. Norms. A group has certain rules for interacting with the group members. Fourth characteristic is structure. It has a structure based on the roles and positions held by the members. Fifth is roles. Every member of a group has certain roles and responsibilities which are assigned by the group leader, and these roles are assigned by the group leader to the members of the group to obtain the basic objective for the personal growth as well as the growth of the group. Next is the interaction. The interaction between the group members can occur in several ways, that is face to face, telephonically, in writing or in other manners. Last is collective identity. A group is an aggregation of individuals which are separately called as members and collectively called as group. When people stand individually, they are known as people, they are known as person A and person B, but when they merge together to achieve some common objective, they are known as group. So now the question arises, why do people join groups? So one answer is with us, that people join group to obtain common objective, but there are many other reasons why people join groups. So number one is people join group to receive a sense of social security and safety. The presence of people give social security and safety to the other group members. Being excluded from a group or not being a part of a group can pull down one's status. Therefore, one of the reasons is to satisfy the status demand. Next is to have self-esteem is crucial for everyone in every part of the social strata. So to maintain, to establish, to enhance the self-esteem of oneself, a person belongs to a certain group. Affiliation to the idea of having a system to provide you with the moral support and help you achieve goals. Group members provide us moral support, and that moral support boosts us and encourages us to achieve the common objective for the group members. And being a part of a group often gives you a subtle sense of power. And in the last but not the least, a group can help in process of successful goal achievement. What is goal achievement? The goal is the common objective, the common goal, and all the members of the group work together to achieve that common goal. The main reason for a group to form is physical interaction based upon a common need or problem. So, common objective is very necessary, and for attaining this common objective, the interaction among the group members is very essential. The greater the extent to which individuals share activities, the more they will interact and the higher the probability that they will form a group. Interaction enables people to discover common interests, likes and dislikes, attitudes or sentiments. So interaction is the key point. Until and unless you interact with people, you talk with people, you communicate with people, you won't be able to know about the personality, about the demands, about the attitudes and values of the other people. So interaction among the group members is very crucial. There are other important factors which encourage group formation. First is physical proximity. People who live in the same villages or same area are likely to form a group than people who live in different villages or different areas. So, physical proximity increases the likelihood of forming a group. Physical attraction. Individuals who attract to each other physically might form a group. For example, young and energetic boys and girls are more likely to attract each other, and therefore they are more likely to form a common group. Rewards satisfaction of economic and social needs that the group provides to its group members. And social support, it perhaps provided by members of a group in times of crisis. Now, on the basis of these factors affecting the group formation, some theories are also there which interpret the process of group formation. First is the theory of propinquity theory. The most basic theory explaining affiliation is propinquity. This interesting word simply means that individuals affiliate with one another because of spatial or geographical proximity. जो first factor था, that was physical proximity. This theory is related to physical proximity factor. In an organization, employees who work in the same area of the plant or office or managers with offices close to one another would more probably form into groups than would those who are not physically located together. So, the people, the organization who are located nearby are more likely to interact with each other, and they are more likely to form a group. Number second is Homans theory. According to George C. Homans, the more activities persons share, the more numerous will be their interaction, and the stronger will be their shared activities and sentiments. And the more sentiments people have for one another, the more will be their shared activities and interaction. So, interaction leads to sentiments, and sentiment in turn leads to the formation of group. It is very comprehensive theory and based on activities, interaction, and based on sentiments. So, in this theory, there are three basic elements: activities, which leads to interaction, and these interaction leads to sentiments, and these sentiments lead to the formation of group. Third is the balance theory. Another very comprehensive theory is a balance theory of group formation. This theory is proposed by Newcomb. It states that persons are attracted to one another on the basis of similar attitudes toward commonly relevant objects and goals. Once a relationship is formed, it strives to maintain a symmetrical balance between the attraction and the common attitudes. If an imbalance occurs, attempts are made to restore the balance. If the balance cannot be restored, the relationship dissolves. So, what is the summary of this theory? That people always work for homeostasis. If person A and B go in the same direction, they are more likely to form a group. But if their attitudes, their thinking, their interests do not match, and if there's any type of imbalance occurs between them, so a type of imbalance occurs in their relationship, and this imbalance and the person tries to remove this imbalance in their relationship in these types of situation, and if they are not able to reduce this imbalance, they are more likely to disintegrate the group. So this balance theory very beautifully explains the concept of group formation. Fourth is the exchange theory. This theory is based on reward cost outcomes of interaction. To be attracted toward a group, a person thinks in terms of what he will get in exchange of interaction with group members. That is very common. If I am giving my input, I am also thinking about the output. If the input output ratio is equal, the person is more likely to be in that group. But a person always wants that this ratio must be greater. The input and output ratio must be greater. That is, I want that I should give less and I must get greater from my group through the interaction with the group members. So, this input and output ratio is supposed to be greater for the formation of the group, and if it is not greater, it should be equal. So, in joining the group, a person always evaluates the reward and cost outcomes of the interaction. And to be attracted towards a group, a person thinks in terms of what he will get in exchange of interaction with group members. A minimum positive level, rewards greater than cost of an outcome must exist in order for affiliation or attraction to take place. We want more output rather than input. Now, there are various stages of group formation. These are forming stage, storming stage, norming stage, performing stage, and adjourning. And we will explain all these stages one by one. Tuckman was responsible for coining the 5 main stages in the process of group discussion. They are also known as Tuckman's 5 stages of group development. The first stage is forming stage. This is the beginning stage and lasts only a few days or weeks. Members begin by planning their work and their new roles. Moreover, the emotions here are positive. The group should begin by learning about team processes in preparation for the tough times ahead. However, it is crucial for them to learn the aspects of conflict resolutions, communications, group decision making, and time management. What are the and there are some indicators of these stages are: first is unclear objective. At this stage of group formation, the objectives are not very clear to all the group members. Uninvolvement, everybody is not so much involved with the group activities and with one another. Uncommitted members, confusions, hidden feelings, and poor listening. Nobody wants to listen each other. Second stage is the stage of storming. There exists a considerable amount of fights and arguments in this stage. People begin to feel the stress of frustration, resentment, and anger. Moreover, as the problem fosters, the job remains undone. Indications of storming stage are lack of cohesion, subjectivity, hidden agendas, conflicts, confrontations, resentment, anger, inconsistency, and failure. So, this is very crucial stage for the formation of group. Third is norming stage. In the norming stage, the group works through individual and social issues. The group establishes its own norms of behavior and begin to trust each other. Moreover, as the group develops interpersonal skills, it becomes all the more skilled. The indications of this stage are clarifying objectives, changing and confirming roles, assertiveness, listening, identifying strengths and weaknesses of the group members. So, any group is not formed all of a sudden. It involves some stages and it goes through several stages, and it begins from inconsistencies and uninvolvement to the cohesiveness among group members. Fourth stage is performing stage. In this stage, the group is ready to begin performing its respective tasks and assigned jobs. In this stage, the group has become well acquainted with one another and has clarity with regard to what needs and what has to be done for achieving the common objective of the group. Last stage is adjourning stage. Post the performing stage, the group is adjourned. The adjourning stage ends the process of group formation because the group is adjourned once the task that is assigned to the group is completed. So, this is the final state of the group formation. Meaning of cohesiveness. Cohesiveness is very important, as this is the feeling of cohesiveness which involves the group members to achieve common group objectives. So, what is cohesiveness? Cohesiveness is the degree to which the group members are attracted to each other and are motivated to stay in the groups. Cohesiveness defines the degree of closeness that the members feels with the groups It is understood as the extent of liking each member has towards others in the group, and flow far everyone wants to remain as a member of the group. Attraction, cohesiveness, and conformity are all intertwined. The more the members feel attracted to the group, the greater will be the group cohesiveness. The greater the cohesiveness, the greater the influence of the group members to persuade one another to conform to the group norms. The greater the conformity, the greater the identity of the members to the group, and the greater the group cohesiveness. So these three terms, attraction, cohesiveness, and conformity, are intertwined, they are interrelated. That is, there is a positive relationship between interaction, attraction, cohesiveness, and conformity. What are the consequences of cohesiveness? Yeah, what are the outcomes of cohesiveness? Group cohesiveness has only positive outcomes, and these consequences are: number one, more participation. Higher the degree of group cohesiveness, closer will be the interpersonal relationships among the members. So, cohesiveness leads to more participation among group members. Number two, more conformity. One of the factors which influences cohesiveness is similarity of attitudes and values. As a result, members tend to like each other and perceive themselves as similar. Number three, more success. That is, cohesiveness leads to more success. Cohesiveness and success are mutually dependent upon each other. Cohesiveness makes the goal achievement easier, and goal achievement adds to success. Number fourth is more communication. Members of cohesive groups communicate with each other more than the members of non-cohesive groups. That is, the degree of interaction is more among the group members who are cohesive. That is, they are more involved in activities, they are more involved in mutual interactions, they are more attracted toward one another. So, cohesiveness leads to more communication. Number fifth is more personal satisfaction. Members of cohesive groups are more satisfied as compared to members of non-cohesive members. Thus, is understandable, because if members are not satisfied, they will leave the group and join some other group. So, cohesiveness leads to more personal satisfaction among group members. High productivity. That is, cohesiveness leads to high productivity. Cohesiveness may contribute to increased productivity because people in cohesive groups experience fewer work-related anxieties and tension, and lesser the tension and lesser the anxiety, the more the individual is likely to be productive. Number two, highly cohesive groups tend to have lower absenteeism and turnover. If I am very much committed to towards my group and towards my job, and I am very much interested in interacting with my group members, I would always like to go to the organization, I would always like to interact with the people. So, highly cohesive members would lead to lesser absenteeism and turnover. Factors affecting group cohesiveness. Determinants of group cohesiveness. Number one, similarity of attitudes and values. We enjoy the company of people who hold similar opinion, morals, beliefs, and code of conduct. So, if we find people just like ourselves, our cohesiveness would be more. Number two is size of the group. If smaller groups are effective, the larger the size of the group, the less cohesive the group is. Reason is because the more larger the group is, the less likelihood of the interaction of individual with the group members. That is why. Number three is time. It is quite natural that the more time people spend with one another, the more they will get to know each other, and more tendency there will be to get closer to each other. Fourth determinant is location. Where members of a group are located close together, separated from other groups, they will develop greater cohesiveness because of constant face-to-face interaction. Fifth determinant is status. A high status group receives greater loyalty from its members, which in turn makes the group more strong. Sixth determinant is difficulty in entry. The more difficult it is to get in the group, the more cohesive that group becomes. Seventh is the interdependency. When each member of a group has independent activities, the cohesiveness among the members of such group will be less as compared to the group whose members are doing the operations which are dependent upon each other. So interdependency leads to more cohesiveness among group member as the independency of the task. Management behavior. The cohesive group can help attain group goals more effectively if the group members are poorly inspired by the manager. So these are the important determinants of the group cohesiveness, and there are few more. Ninth determinant is member turnover. The higher the degree of member turnover, the less cohesive a group becomes, because the more frequently members leave a particular group, the more time a new member takes to get attached to the group. So member turnover positively affects the cohesiveness of the group. Previous successes and shared goals. When a group achieves a meaningful goal, the cohesiveness of the group increases because the success is shared by all the members and each one feels responsible for the achievement. And the last one is cooperation. The general atmosphere of the group enhances cohesiveness. The overall atmosphere depends, among other things, on leadership. The more cooperative the group members are, the more likelihood that the group members would be more cohesive. So these are some important determinants of cohesiveness. So this is all about in this lecture about group, the basic structure of the group, the formation of the group, stages of group formation, theories of group, basic concept of cohesiveness, and determinants of cohesiveness, and what are the factors which can affect the degree of cohesiveness among group members. That is all in this lecture. Thank you.